and thanks to everyone for joining us again today. The overall economic picture in Oregon and the US remains much the same as it's been in recent weeks. More people are getting back on the job or moving on to their next career opportunity. Collective household income remains strong, and consumer spending is at a high for both goods and services. Economic reopening and that strong consumer demand has been pushing job openings to record levels as businesses need more workers to make the goods and provide the services that people want. We've talked a lot about the current situation. There's a record level of job openings and widespread hiring happening throughout Oregon's economy. There are also ongoing COVID concerns and other barriers keeping some workers on the sideline. Together, these are making it hard for some employers to hire as much as they'd like to. Employers have been responding to these tight labor market conditions in many ways. For one, they're raising wages. The real or inflation-adjusted average starting wage for job vacancies rose by a little more than 2% over the past year. The leisure and hospitality sector, those hotels, restaurants, and bars, they're getting a lot of attention, particularly for their difficulty finding enough workers. They've raised average wages too by about $2 per hour over the past year, which is about 14 or 15%. And other sectors have too, some by as much as $4 per hour over the past year. We're seeing businesses raise wages to keep their existing workers too. As of June, real average hourly earnings for all workers have also increased by a little more than 2% relative to their pre-pandemic levels. Now, not every business can necessarily raise wages. Some have found other ways to recruit and retain talent. When the labor market was also tight in 2018, we surveyed employers to ask them about the benefits they offered employees. Now, aside from health and retirement benefits, about half of employers offered paid vacation, and about half reported offering paid holidays. About 1/3 of employers offered professional training or tuition assistance. About 1/3 of them offered production or performance bonuses, and 1/3 of private employers offered flexible work schedules. Now, aside from wages and benefits, when the labor market was also tight before the pandemic, some employers loosened their previous work experience requirements. Now, in the spring of 2021, about half of all job vacancies required previous work experience. And of the 98,000 job vacancies that private employers had this spring, there were about 19,000 that required less than 1 year of work experience. And the jobs with the largest number of openings in this category, they included restaurant servers, retail sales staff, restaurant cooks, nursing assistants, and food prep workers. Now, some of these could be jobs where hiring someone and training them on the job might be possible. When it doesn't pose a safety risk and when employers are able to do so, loosening previous experience requirements at any level can increase the number of people who qualify to apply for their jobs. In tight labor markets, recruitment intensity also tends to increase for employers. And by recruitment intensity, I mean businesses are more likely to layer those help wanted signs with other efforts like referral bonuses or posting with online job boards or reaching out to recruiters that aren't in their immediate geographical area. And that includes listing their job openings with WorkSource Oregon, where tens of thousands of workers have been registering in our job matching system. Any and all layering employers can do with their hiring and retention strategies can help them find and keep workers in a tight labor market. And now I'll turn it over to our Acting Director, David Gerstenfeld, with more updates.
Thank you, Gail, and thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Turning to people finding work, we know that some people who are receiving benefits may need help finding work or training, and we encourage them to use our no-cost WorkSource Oregon services. As a reminder, WorkSource Oregon is something operated by the Employment Department and many partners. We help people find jobs and help businesses find talent. And the reopening of local WorkSource Oregon centers in Oregon is a major milestone in our state's recovery from the pandemic. Since we began our return to work efforts in late June, I'm happy to report that we have helped a lot of people. We've answered about 29,000 calls at the WorkSource Oregon offices. We've referred a lot of people to jobs, helped connect them to resources that can reduce barriers to getting back to work, which is vital in this environment. We've helped people explore career options and training, assisted with iMatch skills registration and work search requirement questions, and much more. 35 WorkSource Oregon centers have now reopened for in-person services after closing April 7th of last year due to the pandemic. To ensure the safety of our employees and visitors and to prevent further spread of COVID-19, masks must be worn by all employees and customers in those offices. To reduce wait times, we encourage people to first call their local WorkSource Oregon Center and make an appointment for in-person services. And of course, we continue to offer virtual and telephone services for people seeking job assistance. Our refreshed WorkSource Oregon website was launched on Monday, and it's available in English and Spanish. Google Translate is available on the website, and 9 additional languages will be added over the coming weeks. This refreshed website showcases the range of personalized, high-quality employment training services that skilled WorkSource staff can offer to job seekers and to employers. You can find the refreshed website at the same address, which is worksourceoregon.org. I'd also like to remind people that the Oregon Employment Department is also hiring. This is a wonderful place to work, and it's filled with compassionate and caring employees who are dedicated to helping people. For people that enjoy a fast-paced work environment and want to make a difference, they can visit unemployment.oregon.gov, and near the bottom of our quick links section, click on the We're Hiring. Starting this past Saturday, the requirement for people receiving benefits to complete work search information when they filed their weekly claim began. Since this requirement has just started, we do not yet have data on the possible impact it's having. It's important that people keep a detailed log of their work search or self-employment activities in case we ask them for that information. We're working diligently during the pandemic to reduce wait times for people seeking our assistance. I'm pleased to report that nearly 85% of the Contact Us inquiries are now being solved within 7 days, and we're answering more calls on average now than at any time since the pandemic began. Using the Contact Us form is still a preferred option for most situations, and it's being used a lot, including when people have questions about correspondence we send them, to request a hearing, or if someone needs to have their claim restarted. And although we've made very significant progress, we continue working to improve customer service response times even more, and this remains a big focus for the agency. We know that with the temporary benefits expiring soon, we'll be seeing more people reaching out to us. As a reminder, all of the federal pandemic benefit programs, so that's PUA, PEUC, FPUC, and MEUC, all expire September 4th. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be notifying all the people who receive benefits from us at some point during the pandemic that these programs will expire. That's over 600,000 people. We want to make sure that people know what assistance may be available from other programs now and when these temporary federal benefits end. And some of those benefits can include rental and housing assistance, healthcare services from the Oregon Health Plan, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, and 211.org. Our unemployment.oregon.gov resources page also lists programs for workers and people who are self-employed and has links to other websites. If the current labor market trends persist throughout the next couple of weeks, it may be up to 81,000 people who are receiving benefits that could see those benefits end on September 5th as the federal benefit programs expire. On August 11th and 18th, we'll be issuing media statements and then resuming our media briefings live on August 25th. And we continue to support a lot of people throughout the state. The total benefits that we've paid since March 15th of 2020 through August 3rd of this year is $10.4 billion. Last week, it was about $100 million to 123,000 people. In closing, I want to say that with yesterday's news of Oregon having one of the highest daily number of COVID-19 cases reported, we're well aware that this pandemic has not ended. We continue helping people prepare for the end of temporary federal benefits and to find work. I so appreciate the hard work of our employees who continue to stand ready to pivot on a moment's notice and are dedicated to helping Oregonians through these very difficult times. And with that, we're happy to try to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Now we are opening the lines to members of the media to ask questions. We will call on you in the order you RSVP'd, and please make sure you state who you are directing your question to. And a reminder, if you're joining us by phone, be sure to hit *6 to unmute yourself. If you don't get your question answered, please email oed_communications@oregon.gov. And the first question is from Jamie Goldberg with the Oregonian. Jamie?
Hi, sorry. I do not have a question at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next question is from Kate Davidson with OPB.
Hey, I have a question about sort of the rise of the Delta variant. And correct me if my understanding is wrong. When you had your temporary sort of emergency rules about eligibility at the beginning of the pandemic, were those contingent on the governor's sort of emergency orders? And would you need more emergency, executive orders at the state level to modify eligibility rules in the fall if you see a big surge in the Delta variant affecting employment?
So Kate, the original rules that we promulgated were traditional temporary rules. State law actually only allows those temporary rules to be in effect for a certain amount of time and does not allow state agencies to kind of re-promulgate those same temporary rules. So when the original temporary rules expired, we took a longer term approach to how we can be flexible in dealing with various crises, not just the current pandemic. We do now have a permanent rule that allows us to do more agile adjustment of the regular unemployment eligibility requirements during and for a certain amount of time after the end of the declared emergency period. So that currently ends towards the end of September under our current authority. And that's when we anticipate being back to kind of the normal unemployment eligibility standards. So if there were a need to extend different rules because the pandemic worsens or something like that, then we likely would need either another emergency declaration or to do some other rulemaking.
What are you watching in terms of understanding as an agency what the triggers would be for necessitating that kind of action?
So there's a number of things that we're watching daily, looking at the number of claims being filed and not just new claims, but also looking at what we're hearing from people when we're talking to them on the phone. Are we seeing a lot more claims reopen because people that had been able to work aren't able to? And are the circumstances that they're facing things that those temporary provisions really are needed to address? Some of those temporary provisions were quite significant changes from the normal operations of the program. Some of them were just making it very clear to people to try to make it more clear how the existing rules would apply in a pandemic situation. So some of the things that people have really benefited from, the outcomes would be the same under the normal unemployment rules, but there are some other exceptions that were made around some of the work search and some of the availability standards. And we're watching the issues as we talk to people and hear what their situations are to see if we're seeing kind of a big shift in the types of issues being reported or how many.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next up is Peter Wong with Pamplin Media.
Hi, David raises the question. I'm not sure who answers this one, but is it too early to tell what the spread of the Delta variant is going to do to either claims or employment? I guess maybe that's aimed at both of you, but that's my question.
Right. I'll defer to Gail in just a moment about the larger economic impact from a claims perspective in our agency operations. It's something that we're watching really closely. We watch daily the number of claims that are filed, but I think it is too early to know what impact we may be seeing from the Delta variant. But certainly we're watching closely and ready to respond if we see changes in the patterns that we have recently been seeing.
To add on, just in terms of the economic picture, any changes that we see happening in terms of either people choosing not to consume as many goods and services or things like that that might drive down business demand. If any of that is happening substantially in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to pick that up in our employment survey that we would report then in September. Largely, it really depends. It is too soon to tell on what happens. You know, if there are health and safety measures that happen, that's what had large impacts on employment in the spring of 2020. And also, if people have COVID fear and don't go out into spaces, even if they're fully reopened, that can affect business demand. And also, you know, we're still expected as of right now to see full-time in-person instruction returning in September, which is something that we've expected to be something that moves employment in the education sector. So it's too soon to tell what will happen, but if anything does in the next couple of weeks, we'll have it in our September jobs report.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, next up is Dick Hughes with the Hughesisms. Go ahead, Dick.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your doing this. I wanted to make sure I heard a couple things correctly. First, I think, David, you said you were answering more calls than ever. And when I checked the wait times on the phone this morning, they were 45 minutes. So it sounds like it's taking longer. And so my question then is, are you adding staffing or anything for the phones? And why is it, if I heard you correctly, why is it that you're not, why do you think you're having more calls than ever?
Sure. So you did hear correctly. We are answering more calls even than at the peak of the onset. And I think there's a couple of reasons for that. In terms of the wait times, they're still not where we want them to be. So we are adding staffing and we're continuing to do other things to improve customer service. Again, we hope that more people will take advantage of the Contact Us form, which is both more convenient for them because they don't need to dial in. It's available almost all the time. And it also is more efficient for us responding to those inquiries in terms of how our staff are able to work through that. And we make sure that the right question gets in front of the people with the right expertise. In terms of reasons, I think there's a lot of things going on. Part of it is because we are answering calls more quickly. So more people are able to get onto the lines, which means more calls are getting answered. We've been adding people, we've been adding phone capacity and improving processes all along so that we can provide that one-on-one assistance to more and more people, and we keep doing that. And then recently, I think people are seeing the federal programs nearing an end. There have been the phasing in of more normal unemployment insurance program requirements. So registering for IMatch, doing the work search requirements. As those things take place, our agency has really improved with the proactive communication that we're doing to explain this to people. But some people will have questions. They'll be in a particular situation. They want to know how that applies. So we see a spike of calls in whenever there's any kind of programmatic change, or again, like around the quarter change, which we just had. So all of those things can contribute to more people having questions and calling us or submitting those Contact Us inquiries.
Thank you. And to clarify something that I should know, but I admit I don't. Do people have to have applied for unemployment to take advantage of WorkSource Oregon? Or is somebody maybe who's been out of the workforce for a while or for whatever reason wants to get help in finding a job? Can those people take advantage of the program too?
That's a great question. And people do not have to be receiving unemployment benefits to take advantage of those WorkSource Oregon services. People who weren't eligible for whatever reason and applied, people who never applied, people who've used up their benefits, they're really there to help people in whatever their circumstances are. People that want to enter into or advance into other parts of the workforce. They're there to help match them with jobs, give them really vital information, and also really help them see what career opportunities and training opportunities and other services might be able to help them.
Thank you.
So we do have time for some follow-up questions. Please let me know if you have any.
Go ahead, Peter, but after. This is
okay. Okay, I have a quick one. I'm going to avoid talking about the governor's upcoming announcement, but I want to ask more generally about, maybe this is for Gail, whether vaccine mandates by employers, and I'm not talking about groups affected by current state laws that don't fall under this, whether vaccine mandates might affect employment figures. And I know that's probably too early to tell along with the Delta variant, but I gather employers outside some of these fields specified by law could require vaccine mandates. Their employees getting vaccinated.
That's a good question. And I think it largely depends. I think it depends on what field someone works in. I think that we know there are record numbers of job vacancies out there. So workers have choices as to where they go to find job openings because they're widespread in all areas of the economy. So I think that in terms of it being a prohibitive factor for any individual worker who wants to go find a job, I think they're still going to find ample opportunities available in Oregon's economy.
Okay, thanks.
This is Dick Hughes, if you have time for a couple more questions.
Yes, go ahead, Dick.
Thank you. These are for David, and following up, I had some audio problems on my end this morning. So did you say how many people you expect to lose all their benefits in September? And if so, could you give that number again? And the second thing is, I understand what you said about the people need to be keeping records. And there's some anxiety out there about how people are doing that. So what are the employment department's plans? Are you going to ask people to submit their records, or if just people report frauds, or you do random checks, or if you could say?
I'll take your first question first. And we did share that it's a projection, of course. And as we've talking about the Delta variant, some things are moving very quickly. But the current projections are that when the federal benefit programs end, that it's up to about 81,000 people that might stop receiving those federal benefits. To answer your question about the work search records, we really have, everybody needs to keep records of what they're doing. Our existing unemployment insurance system was modified a number of years ago to ask a little bit of information from people as they file their weekly claim, so they can give us information about what their work search activities were as they file that claim. For the PUA program, that was obviously developed much more recently and on a very aggressive time schedule so that we could get benefits out to people needing them as quickly as possible. It doesn't have people give the detail of what they did each week. It does ask them to certify that they did the required work search activities, and it can vary depending on whether somebody was looking for traditional work as an employee or if they were self-employed. And for those people who aren't giving us any information, we ask them to keep records. We do some spot checking. So certainly some random checking, or if there's some indicator that there might be an issue with the claim. We do ask people to report fraud, and that certainly can be one of the things that would spur us to ask somebody for the more detailed records. Not the only thing by any means.